The gravel driveway crunched beneath Amara Johnson's worn sneakers as she approached the stately Charleston home, its white columns gleaming in the late afternoon sun of July 2025. Spanish moss draped the ancient oaks like delicate lace, and long shadows stretched across the manicured lawn, whispering of secrets held within the grand estate. At 33, Amara, a Black American woman with warm brown skin and dark, soulful eyes, clutched her single suitcase, her heart a mix of hope and trepidation. She'd seen beautiful facades before, and as a nanny who'd walked through countless homes, she knew they often hid the deepest pain. This job, caring for 2 grieving children, felt like more than a paycheck. It felt like a chance to find purpose again. If this story of new beginnings resonates with you, drop a like to let us know you're with us on this journey. The colonial mansion loomed before her, its elegance almost too perfect, as if it were holding its breath. Amara adjusted her grip on the suitcase, her dark curls catching the humid Charleston breeze. She was no stranger to loss. 3 years ago, her world had shattered, and the weight of that memory lingered in the small blue baby shoe tucked inside her bag. But today wasn't about her past. It was about the family inside, a family she'd been hired to help stitch back together. Have you ever stepped into a place that felt like it needed you as much as you needed it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. The doorbell's melodic chime echoed through what Amara imagined were vast, empty hallways. Footsteps approached, measured and deliberate, and the heavy oak door swung open to reveal Nathan Caldwell, 38, a white American man whose handsome features were carved with exhaustion. His pale skin was slightly flushed from the heat, and his dark blonde hair was disheveled, despite an apparent attempt to tame it. His blue eyes, heavy with grief, met hers, and Amara saw a man carrying the weight of too many sleepless nights. Nathan's calloused hand, marked by years of drafting architectural designs, extended in a firm handshake. "Ms. Johnson?" Deep with a faint southern drawl, his voice held a weariness that matched the house's somber air. "That's me," Amara replied, her smile steady as she shook his hand, noting the contrast between his rough fingers and the expensive wristwatch. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Caldwell." "Nathan, please," he said, stepping aside to let her into a foyer that could have swallowed her old apartment whole. "The kids are upstairs. Lily's 8, Ethan's 5. They're good kids. Just—" He trailed off, running a hand through his hair, a gesture that betrayed his struggle to find words. "Grieving," Amara finished gently, recognizing the shadow in his eyes. She'd seen it in her mirror too many times. "I understand." Nathan's gaze flickered with surprise, maybe recognition, before he nodded. "Yeah, exactly." He cleared his throat, shattering the moment of vulnerability. "Let me show you to your room. We'll go over schedules and expectations at dinner." Amara's eyes caught on the family photos lining the walls as they climbed the curved staircase. A radiant woman with fair skin and kind hazel eyes smiled from every frame. Sarah, Nathan's late wife, who'd lost her battle with cancer 18 months ago at 35. In one photo, she held a newborn Lily, her white skin glowing with joy. In another, she laughed with a toddler Ethan, his fair cheeks smeared with cake. The love in those images was palpable, but so was the absence that now filled the house. If these glimpses of a family's past tug at your heart, hit that subscribe button to follow their journey toward healing. Nathan paused at a door near the hallway's end. "This is your room. It's got a bathroom and a small sitting area. Lily's in the yellow room. Ethan's in the blue." Amara's room was spacious, decorated in soft grays and whites, with windows overlooking a garden where a swing set stood empty, swaying in the evening breeze. It was beautiful, but impersonal, like a hotel room designed to forget guests. "Dinner's at 6, Nathan continued, his tone all business. "The kids eat together. It's one of the few routines we've kept. Breakfast is casual, whatever they want, within reason. Lily helps Ethan with small tasks, and Ethan works on using words instead of tantrums." "And you?" Amara asked, setting her suitcase on the pristine bedspread. "Do you eat with them?" Nathan's jaw tightened, a flicker of guilt crossing his pale features. "I try to be home by bedtime. Work's been demanding." He checked his watch. "Kitchen's downstairs, first door past the living room. Maria, our housekeeper, left everything you might need. I'll let you settle in." Amara unpacked her few belongings alone, hanging simple dresses in a closet that could hold 10 times her wardrobe. She placed the blue baby shoe in the nightstand, her fingers tracing its tiny laces, a reminder of her son, Micah, and the life she'd lost. The garden's empty swings through the window seemed to echo the house's quiet sorrow. Yet, as she looked around, Amara felt a spark of purpose. This family needed her, and maybe, just maybe, she needed them too. What does it take to bring light to a home full of shadows? Leave a comment with your thoughts, and let's keep this story alive together. Amara Johnson stood in the spacious guest room of the Caldwell mansion, the late afternoon light filtering through gauzy curtains, casting soft patterns on the gray walls. She unzipped her suitcase, her movements deliberate as she hung a few simple dresses in the cavernous closet, their modest fabrics stark against the polished wood. With its plush bed and impersonal decor, the room felt like a blank canvas, beautiful but waiting for life to fill it. Her fingers brushed against a small velvet pouch at the bottom of her bag, and she paused, her breath catching. Inside was the tiny blue baby shoe, its laces worn from years of handling. She sat on the edge of the bed, cradling it, and let her mind drift to a place she rarely allowed it to go. What would it be if a single object could hold a lifetime of love and loss for you? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear what keeps your heart anchored. 3 years ago, Amara had stood in a sterile hospital room, the beep of monitors a cruel metronome to her hope. She'd been 30, her belly full with Micah, her son, whose kicks had been her constant companion for months. Her fiancé, James, had held her hand, his eyes bright with anticipation. But then the ultrasound went silent, the technician's face paling as she excused herself to fetch the doctor. "No heartbeat," the doctor had said, her voice gentle but unyielding. "I'm so sorry." The world had tilted, the room spinning as Amara clutched the hospital gown, willing it to be a mistake. Full term and perfect Micah was gone. No cry, no reason, just stillness. James had crumbled, his promises of forever unraveling in the following weeks. "You're stuck in the past," he'd said before leaving, unable to bear her grief or his own. Amara had moved through the next year like a ghost until a friend suggested nannying. Caring for children gave her purpose, a way to pour her love for Micah into others. Each job had been a step toward healing, but this one, with Nathan Caldwell's grieving family, felt different, like a mirror to her pain. If you've ever found a new path through loss, hit that like button to share the strength it takes to keep going. Back in the present, Amara tucked the shoe into the nightstand drawer, closing it with a soft click. She stood, smoothing her blouse, and headed downstairs, drawn by muffled voices. The kitchen was a grand space, all gleaming marble and stainless steel, but it felt hollow, as if laughter hadn't echoed here in too long. Lily sat at the island, her dark hair in a messy ponytail, flipping through a book with a seriousness that belied her youth. Ethan, his blonde curls wild, was sprawled on the floor, stacking blocks with intense focus. Amara hesitated in the doorway, sensing their wariness. She'd seen it before in other children. Distrust born of loss, of adults who came and went. "Hi, Lily." "Ethan," Amara said, her voice warm but soft, like an invitation rather than a demand. "I'm Amara. I'll be staying here to help out for a while." Lily looked up, her hazel eyes narrowing like the ones in the photos of Sarah lining the staircase. "You're the new nanny?" Her tone was skeptical, testing. "The last one left after a month." Ethan glanced up from his blocks, his blue eyes curious but guarded. "He said she didn't like my dinosaurs," pointing to a plastic T-Rex. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I love dinosaurs," Amara said, crouching to his level with a grin. "Especially the ones with big teeth." "What's this one's name?" "Rexy," Ethan replied, his face lighting up for a moment before dimming. "Mama used to play with dinosaurs with me." Lily looked at him as if he'd broken an unspoken rule. "We don't talk about Mama," she whispered, her voice sharp but trembling. Amara's heart squeezed, recognizing the weight of their silence. She'd felt it too, after Micah, when people tiptoed around her loss, afraid to say his name. "It's okay to talk about her," she said gently, meeting Lily's gaze. "Your mama sounds like she was pretty special." Lily's lips pressed into a thin line, but Ethan nodded, clutching Rexy. "She made dinosaur pancakes with faces." "That sounds amazing," Amara said, her smile encouraging. "We could make some tomorrow. What do you think, Lily? Any special pancake tricks your mama taught you?" Lily hesitated, her fingers tightening on her book. "She used blueberries for eyes," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you won't stay long enough to learn how." The words stung, but Amara saw the fear behind them. Fear of another adult leaving, like the nannies before her, like their mother. "I'm planning to stick around as long as you need me," she said, her tone steady. "But I get why you'd wonder. It's hard when people leave." Something flickered in Lily's eyes. Surprise, maybe hope, but she didn't respond. Ethan, however, scooted closer, holding out Rexy. "You can play with him if you want." Amara took the dinosaur, her fingers brushing his small hand. "Thanks, Ethan. I bet Rexy and I will have some big adventures." She glanced at Lily, overseeing her, as if weighing whether to trust this stranger in their home. Have you ever met someone who made you want to retake a chance on trust? Share your story in the comments. Your stories keep this channel growing. From the hallway, Amara heard the creak of a floorboard. Nathan stood there, his silhouette framed by the fading light, his expression unreadable. "Dinner's in an hour," he said, his voice clipped but not unkind. "Maria left lasagna in the fridge. The kids know where everything is." "Thanks," Amara said, standing. "I'll make sure we're ready." He nodded, his eyes lingering on Ethan's dinosaur and Lily's book, as if seeing them for the first time in a while. Then he turned, disappearing into his office, the door closing softly. Amara looked back at the children, their small faces carrying so much more than their years should allow. She felt a resolve settle in her chest, not just to care for them, but to help them find their way back to joy, even if it meant facing their pain head-on. This family was a puzzle, broken but not beyond repair, and Amara was determined to be a piece that fit. If Amara's courage to step into this family's world inspires you, hit that subscribe button to follow their journey through grief and hope. The morning sun spilled through the kitchen windows, warming the marble island where Amara Johnson stood, tying an apron around her waist. The Caldwell Mansion's kitchen, with its gleaming appliances and expansive counters, felt less hollow today, stirred to life by the clatter of bowls and the faint hum of a radio playing soft jazz. Amara had woken early, her mind buzzing with Ethan's mention of dinosaur pancakes, a memory of their mother, Sarah, that had sparked a flicker of joy in his blue eyes. She was determined to seize that spark, to weave a moment of connection for the children. If a simple breakfast can bring a family closer, what's your favorite recipe for togetherness? Drop it in the comments. We're all about sharing the warmth. Ethan bounded into the kitchen, his blonde curls bouncing, a plastic T-Rex clutched in his small hand. "Are we making dinosaur pancakes?" he asked, his voice bright with anticipation. He climbed onto a stool, barely containing energy, his school uniform already slightly rumpled. "You bet," Amara said, flashing a grin as she set out flour, eggs, and a bag of blueberries. "But I need an expert to show me how it's done. I heard your mama was the queen of pancake art." Ethan nodded vigorously. "She made T-Rexes with enormous jaws and brontosauruses with long necks." His excitement dimmed for a moment, his fingers tightening on the toy. "But Lily says we shouldn't talk about Mama." Amara's heart twinged, but she kept her tone light. "Talking about your mama keeps her close. Let's make her proud with the best dinosaurs yet." She handed him a whisk, and his face lit up, the shadow of hesitation fading. Lily appeared in the doorway, her dark hair in a messy ponytail, her hazel eyes wary as she watched Amara measure flour. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice edged with suspicion, as if fun were a trap. Ethan announced that we're making dinosaur pancakes, waving the whisk like a scepter. "Like Mama's." Lily's lips pressed into a thin line, her book clutched to her chest. She muttered, "They won't be like Mama's." But she stepped closer, curiosity pulling her despite herself. Amara slid a bowl toward her. "You're right. They might not be precisely the same. But Ethan says you know the secret to Mama's blueberry eyes. Want to show me?" She kept her voice gentle, an invitation rather than a demand. Lily hesitated, then set her book down and climbed onto a stool. "Mama used 2 blueberries for T-Rex eyes, and 1 big one for a triceratops horn," she said, her tone matter-of-fact, but softer. She poured the batter slowly to make the shapes right. "Got it," Amara said, handing her a measuring cup. "You're in charge of the eyes. Ethan, you handle the tails. I'll pour the bodies, DD. System. Bodies. Let's make these pancakes legendary." If you love this moment of the kids opening up, hit that like button to keep the story cooking. The kitchen filled with the sizzle of batter on the griddle and the scent of warm pancakes. Ethan giggled as he shaped a lopsided tail, flour dusting his cheeks, while Lily carefully placed blueberries, her movements precise, almost reverent. "Mama used to sing this silly song about a pancake dinosaur," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. It went, "Stomp, stomp, dinos on the griddle." "Sing it," Ethan urged, his eyes sparkling. Lily flushed but joined in, her voice tentative at first, then stronger, blending with Ethan's high-pitched enthusiasm. Amara laughed, adding a playful roar to the song, and for a moment, the kitchen felt alive, the weight of silence lifting. Have you ever found joy in a memory that hurt at first? Share your story in the comments. What makes this community special? As they flipped the last pancake, a wobbly brontosaurus with blueberry eyes, the back door opened, and Nathan Caldwell stepped in, his dark blonde hair tousled from the morning breeze. His blue eyes widened at the sight, flowers scattered across the counter, syrup dripping on the island, and his children laughing, their faces smudged with batter. The scene mirrors Sarah's chaotic, joyful mornings, his jaw tightening, a flicker of pain crossing his features. "Sorry about the mess," Amara said quickly, grabbing a dish rag. "I should have checked with you first. We got carried away." Nathan's gaze softened, landing on Ethan's proud grin and Lily's careful placement of a blueberry. "It's fine," he said, his voice low, almost hoarse. It's nice to hear them laugh. He paused, his hand brushing through his hair, a gesture Amara was starting to recognize as his shield against overwhelming emotion. Sarah used to make the kitchen look like this, flour everywhere, kids covered in batter. Amara nodded, sensing the delicate balance of memory and grief. They were telling me about her pancake songs, she said gently. Sounds like she knew how to make mornings memorable. Nathan's eyes met hers, gratitude mingling with unease. She did, he murmured, then cleared his throat. I'll clean up later. You three keep going. I've got calls to make. He retreated to his office, the door closing softly behind him. Amara watched him go, her heart heavy. The pancakes had brought joy, but also stirred Nathan's pain, a reminder of what he'd lost. She turned back to the children, who were now stacking pancakes on plates, Ethan insisting his T-Rex was the fiercest. These are awesome, Lily said, a rare smile tugging at her lips, though her eyes still held a guarded edge. Amara felt a spark of hope as they sat to eat, syrup-sticky fingers and all. The children were opening up, their laughter a small victory against the house's heavy silence. But Nathan's reaction lingered, a warning that healing would be a delicate dance, one she was determined to lead with care. If this messy, joyful connection warmed your heart, hit that subscribe button to join us for more Amara's journey with the Caldwells. Amara Johnson navigated the Caldwell mansion's quiet halls, her footsteps soft on the polished hardwood as she carried a stack of folded laundry. The week since her arrival had been a delicate dance, each day revealing the invisible threads that held this grieving family together, and the ones threatening to unravel them. The morning's pancake making had sparked laughter, but Amara sensed the undercurrent of restraint, as if joy were a guest that might overstay its welcome. She'd promised to help Lily and Ethan find their way back to happiness, but the house's unspoken rules were becoming clear, like shadows cast by Sarah's absence. Have you ever felt the weight of rules no one says out loud? Share your thoughts in the comments. We're curious to hear your stories. In the living room, Amara paused by Sarah's reading chair, its faded blue cushion still holding a bookmark in an untouched novel. She'd learned not to move it, just as she'd learned not to mention Sarah during breakfast or ask Nathan about his late nights at the architectural firm. The children, too, followed these silent edicts. When Ethan started describing Sarah's bedtime stories yesterday, Lily hushed him, her hazel eyes darting toward the hallway, as if Nathan's disapproval might materialize. Amara understood their caution. She'd lived it after losing Micah, when friends avoided his name to spare her pain. But avoidance hadn't healed her. It had only deepened the ache. As sunlight streamed through the tall windows this afternoon, Amara found the children in the backyard, sprawled on a blanket near the empty swing set. Ethan was coloring a dinosaur picture, his blonde curls catching the breeze, while Lily read a book, her dark hair tucked behind her ears. "Can I join you?" Amara asked, settling on the blanket with a sketch pad she'd found in the kitchen. Ethan grinned, holding up his drawing. "It's a T-Rex, like the pancakes." His enthusiasm was infectious, but Lily's eyes narrowed, her book lowering slightly. "It's not like Mama's drawings," Lily said, her voice sharp but tinged with longing. "She used to draw dinosaurs with us out here." Amara nodded, keeping her tone gentle. "That sounds special. Want to tell me about her drawings? Let's try one together." Lily's lips pressed into a thin line, but Ethan bounced up, undeterred. "Mama made them with sparkly pens." She drew a stegosaurus with plates like rainbows. His small hand reached for Amara's sketch pad. "Can I draw one?" "Sure," Amara said, handing him a pencil. "Show me those rainbow plates." She glanced at Lily, who was watching, her expression torn between resistance and curiosity. "Lily, you in?" I bet you know exactly how your mama made those sparkles. Lily hesitated, then set her book aside. She used glitter gel pens, she said quietly, taking a pencil. The green one was her favorite for the stegosaurus. She began to sketch, her strokes careful but sure, as if channeling Sarah's hand. As they drew, Ethan chattered about Sarah's burrito boy tucks, how she'd wrap him so tight he'd giggle. Lily's pencil paused, her voice softer now. She'd draw a star on my hand after, so I'd dream of adventures. She showed Amara a faint mark on her palm, long faded but still cherished. Amara's heart swelled, seeing the children open up. Those sound like the best dreams, she said. We can draw some stars today and keep those adventures going. The back door creaked, and Nathan appeared, his dark blonde hair mussed from a long day, his blue eyes scanning the scene. The sight of the sketch pad and the children's animated voices caught him off guard, his jaw tightening. "What's this?" he asked, his tone neutral but edged with something heavier. "We're drawing like Mama," Ethan said proudly, holding up his rainbow-plated stegosaurus. Lily froze, her pencil hovering, as if bracing for a reprimand. Amara met Nathan's gaze, her voice steady. They were sharing stories about Sarah's drawings. It was a good way to spend the afternoon. If moments like these remind you of healing through memories, hit that like button to keep this story shining. Nathan's hand ran through his hair, his telltale sign of discomfort. "I see," he said, his voice low. "Can I talk to you for a moment, Amara?" He gestured toward the house, and she followed, leaving the children to their sketches. Inside the kitchen, Nathan leaned against the counter, his posture stiff. "I appreciate what you're doing for them," he began, his eyes avoiding hers, "but pushing them to talk about Sarah. It's hard. It brings everything back, and I'm not sure they're ready." Amara took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "I understand it's painful, Nathan, but they're already thinking about her. Not talking about it doesn't make the hurt disappear. It just makes them feel alone. I've been there, and I know how much it helps to share the good memories, not just the sad ones." Nathan's gaze flickered with surprise, then softened, as if her words had struck a chord. "I want to protect them," he said quietly. "Whenever they talk about her, I see how much they hurt. I don't know if I'm strong enough to watch that." "You are," Amara said, her voice firm but kind. "And they need to see you're strong enough to remember her with them. It's how they'll learn it's okay to feel everything. Sad, happy. Have you ever had to find the courage to face painful memories? Share your experience in the comments. Your stories make this journey real." Nathan looked at her, his expression torn between gratitude and fear. "I'll think about it," he said finally, his voice rough. "Go slow, okay? For all of us." Amara nodded, sensing the fragility of this moment. "I will," she promised. As Nathan returned to his office, she rejoined the children, who added glittery stars to their drawings. Lily glanced up, her eyes searching. "Is Daddy mad?" she asked. "No, sweetheart," Amara said, smiling. "He misses your mama too. We're all figuring this out together." As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of amber, Amara watched Lily and Ethan sketch, their laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. The moment was small, but significant, a crack in the wall of silence that had held this family captive. But Nathan's unease lingered, a reminder that healing would come with challenges. Amara felt a resolve deepen within her, to guide this family gently, to help them find joy in Sarah's memory without fear. If Amara's determination to break through grief inspires you, hit that subscribe button to follow the Caldwell's path to healing. The late afternoon sun cast golden rays across the Caldwell mansion's kitchen, where Amara Johnson was slicing apples for an after-school snack. The week had been a delicate balance of small victories, dinosaur pancakes, shared sketches, and fleeting moments of laughter. But the family's unspoken rules still lingered, a quiet barrier to more profound healing. Amara sensed the fragility of their progress, like a melody struggling to find its rhythm. The air felt heavier today, as if the house was bracing for a storm. Have you ever sensed a moment when everything changes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're all about sharing these turning points. The front door slammed, jarring Amara from her thoughts. Lily stormed in, her dark hair tangled, her hazel eyes brimming with tears. Her backpack hit the floor with a thud, and she stood there, fists clenched, her small frame trembling with fury. Ethan trailed behind, his blonde curls damp from the Charleston humidity, clutching his T-Rex toy with wide, worried eyes. "Lily, what's wrong?" Amara asked, setting down the knife and moving toward her. "Nothing," Lily snapped, her voice cracking as tears spilled over. She swiped at her cheeks, as if angry at her vulnerability. "Just leave me alone." Ethan hovered near the island, his voice small. "She's mad 'cause of school," he said, glancing at his sister. "Mrs. Carter said, we gotta make Mother's Day cards next week." Amara's heart sank, understanding dawning. She knelt beside Lily, keeping her distance to avoid crowding her. "That must have been hard," she said softly. "Want to tell me what happened?" Lily's lip trembled, and the words burst like a dam breaking. "Mrs. Carter said I could make a card for someone who's like a mom, and everyone looked at me like I'm some sad kid who needs fixing. She said I could make it for you, but you're not my mom. You're just the nanny, and I hate her for saying that." Her voice rose, raw with pain, each word a dagger that cut Amara, but also echoed her fears of overstepping. Amara took a steadying breath, her grief surfacing, memories of Micah, the son she'd never hold. "You're right, Lily," she said quietly, meeting her gaze. "I'm not your mom, and I'd never try to take her place. Your mama was special, and missing her doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. If Lily's raw honesty tugs at your heart, hit that like button to keep this story alive." Lily blinked, her anger faltering, replaced by a flicker of surprise. Ethan climbed onto a stool, his T-Rex forgotten. "I miss Mama too," he whispered, his blue eyes glossy. "I don't want to make a card either." Amara reached for Ethan's hand, then looked at Lily. "You don't have to make a card if it feels wrong, but there's another way to talk to your mama, to tell her how much you love her." She paused, her voice softening. "When I lost someone I loved, I found it helped to share the things I wished I could say." Lily's brow furrowed. "Who did you lose?" Amara hesitated, her fingers brushing the invisible weight of the blue baby shoe in her room. "My son Micah," she said, her throat tight. "He was born sleeping 3 years ago. I write him letters sometimes, about the things I wish he could see, like the flowers in spring or the way the ocean sounds. It doesn't take the hurt away, but it keeps him close." Ethan's eyes widened, and Lily's softened, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "Does it hurt less?" Lily asked, her voice barely audible. "Some days," Amara admitted. "But it's the love that stays strongest. Want to try writing to your mama? You can say anything you want, and I'll help if needed." Lily nodded slowly, and Ethan perked up. "I want to tell her about the pancakes," he said, his enthusiasm cutting through the tension. Amara grabbed paper and pencils from a drawer, and they settled at the kitchen table. Lily wrote carefully, her handwriting neat, describing Sarah's garden and how she missed planting tulips with her. Ethan dictated to Amara, his words tumbling about dinosaur pancakes and how he wanted to be a dinosaur scientist for Mama. As they folded their letters into paper airplanes to send to heaven, Lily's tears dried, and a small smile curved her lips. "Mama would like these," she said, holding her airplane tightly. "Have you ever found healing in a simple act of remembrance? Share your story in the comments. It's what connects us." From the doorway, Nathan watched, his dark blonde hair falling into his eyes, his expression a mix of gratitude and unease. He'd changed into jeans, but the weight of his grief was still etched in his posture. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice low, as if afraid to disrupt the moment. "We wrote letters to Mama," Ethan announced, waving his airplane. "Talia said it's okay to talk to her." Nathan's jaw tightened, and Amara braced herself, sensing his discomfort. "They needed this, Nathan," she said gently. "It's not about forgetting Sarah. It's about keeping her love alive." He ran a hand through his hair, his blue eyes searching hers. "I know you're trying to help," he said, his voice rough. "But it's hard seeing them hurt like this. I can't handle it." "You can," Amara said, her tone firm but kind. "They need to see that you can handle it, so they know it's okay to feel everything." If Amara's courage to face grief head-on inspires you, hit that subscribe button to follow the Caldwell's journey. Nathan nodded, his gaze lingering on the children's airplanes and Amara. "I'll try," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. He returned to his office, leaving Amara with the children, their small hands clutching their letters. Amara felt the moment's weight as the sun set, casting a warm glow over the kitchen. Lily and Ethan had taken a step toward healing, but Nathan's hesitation was a reminder of the road ahead. She resolved to guide them gently, to help them weave Sarah's memory into their lives without fear. The letters, fluttering on the table, were a small but powerful testament to love's endurance. The Charleston morning was thick with humidity, the air heavy as Amara Johnson arranged wildflowers in a vase on the foyer table of the Caldwell mansion. The past week had brought fragile progress. Pancakes, sketches, and letters to Sarah had coaxed smiles from Lily and Ethan, but the family's grief still lingered like an uninvited guest. Amara was tidying the kitchen when the doorbell rang, its sharp chimes slicing through the quiet house. She glimpsed a sleek black sedan through the front window, its polished surface gleaming ominously in the driveway. Have you ever felt a stranger's arrival shift the air around you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're eager to hear your stories. Amara opened the door to find Margaret Langley, Sarah's mother, standing on the porch. Her silver hair was perfectly styled, and her cream-colored suit was tailored to exude old Charleston wealth. Her pale blue eyes, sharp as winter frost, swept over Amara with a mix of curiosity and disapproval. "Margaret said you must be the new nanny," her voice smooth but edged with authority, as if she owned the ground beneath them. "Amara Johnson," Amara replied, stepping aside with a polite nod. "Please, come in, Mrs. Langley." Margaret's heels clicked on the hardwood as she entered, her gaze lingering on the wildflowers and the children's colorful drawings now taped to the refrigerator. "Where are my grandchildren?" she asked, her tone suggesting Amara might have misplaced them. "They're at school," Amara said, keeping her voice steady. "They'll be home around 3:30. Nathan's at work, but he should be back by 6. Margaret nodded crisply, settling into the living room with the ease of someone claiming her territory. Her eyes fixed on Sarah's reading chair, the bookmark still nestled in its novel, and a flicker of pain crossed her face before her composure returned. She said, "Nathan told you about our disagreement," and carefully modulated her voice. Amara shook her head. "No, he didn't mention anything." Margaret's eyebrows rose slightly. "How interesting." She leaned forward, studying Amara like a specimen under glass. "Tell me, Miss Johnson, what are your intentions here? With my son-in-law, with my grandchildren?" Amara felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her tone calm. I'm here to care for Lily and Ethan, to help them feel safe and happy, that's all. If Amara's resolve to protect the children resonates with you, hit that like button to keep their story shining. Margaret's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. How noble. But I've been watching this house. The garden Sarah loved, left untouched since her death, is suddenly tended. The children walk cautiously, and Nathan's car's in the driveway before dark. You're making changes, Miss Johnson, and I wonder why. Amara's stomach twisted, but she held Margaret's gaze. I care about this family. I want them to heal, to find joy again. That's not replacing Sarah. It's honoring her. Margaret's expression hardened. You speak of honoring her, but you didn't know her. Sarah was my only child, vibrant, irreplaceable. She poured her heart into this family, and I watched her fade because Nathan chased experimental treatments instead of giving her peace in her final months. Those choices stole her time with her children, and now you're here, stepping into her life. The accusation landed like a blow, stirring Amara's doubts about her place in this home. I'm sorry for your loss, she said, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. But I'm not trying to take Sarah's place. I'm helping Lily and Ethan remember her with love, not just pain. Margaret stood, her posture regal, her voice low and cutting. You see a grieving widower and vulnerable children as a chance to play family. I loved my daughter, and I won't let some opportunistic stranger erase her legacy. Sarah deserved better than a husband who risked everything on false hope, and my grandchildren deserve better than a nanny with no ties to them. She moved toward the door, pausing. This isn't over, Miss Johnson. I'll be watching. As the door closed, Amara sank into a chair, Margaret's words echoing like a poison. The memory of her loss, Micah's silent birth, James's abandonment, resurfaced, making her question if she was overstepping, if her presence was a harm rather than a help. Have you ever faced someone who challenged your place in a loved one's life? Share your experience in the comments. Your stories keep us connected. Amara checked on the children's rooms upstairs, finding Ethan's T-Rex on his bed and Lily's book open to a page about gardens, a nod to Sarah's love for tulips. She felt a surge of determination. She wasn't here to replace Sarah, but to help her memory bloom in the children's hearts. Yet Margaret's threat loomed, a storm cloud over their fragile progress. As she heard Nathan's car pull into the driveway, earlier than usual, Amara braced herself. Whatever Margaret's intentions, they were a challenge to the family's future, and Amara wasn't sure she was ready to face it. If Amara's fight to protect this family inspires you, hit that subscribe button to follow their journey through the storm. The Charleston sun hung low, painting the Caldwell mansion's backyard in hues of gold as Amara Johnson knelt in Sarah's overgrown tulip garden. The flower beds, choked with weeds, were a quiet testament to the family's paused grief. But Amara saw potential in their struggling blooms. Lily's stories of planting with her mother had stirred her, and she'd come out this Saturday afternoon to tend them, her hands working the soil with care. The air was thick with the scent of earth and possibility, but Margaret Langley's accusations from days ago lingered like a storm cloud, casting doubt on Amara's place in this home. Have you ever found solace in tending something neglected? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear what brings you peace. Amara pulled a stubborn weed, her fingers brushing the delicate roots of a tulip, when she heard footsteps behind her. Nathan Caldwell stood at the garden's edge, his dark blonde hair catching the light, his blue eyes softer than usual. He'd traded his usual suit for jeans and a paint-stained t-shirt, a rare glimpse of the man beneath the architect's polished exterior. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice curious, but tinged with something more profound. "I'm sorry," Amara said, brushing dirt from her hands. I should have asked. The flowers were struggling, and Lily mentioned that Sarah planted these tulips. I thought... She trailed off, unsure if she'd crossed another unspoken boundary. Nathan crouched beside her, his gaze fixed on the tulips. Sarah planted these our second spring here, he said quietly, his fingers hovering over a fragile stem. She said they were like hope, gone for months, and back when you least expected it. His voice was soft, almost reverent, and Amara saw the weight of memory in his eyes. They're not gone, Amara said gently. They need care. She handed him a small trowel, and he took it, his hands shaking slightly as he began pulling weeds alongside her. If moments of quiet connection tug at your heart, hit that like button to keep this story blooming. They worked in silence. The only sounds the rustle of leaves and a distant mockingbird's song. Their hands occasionally brushed in the dirt, a fleeting warmth that felt comforting and charged. Sarah and I used to garden every weekend, Nathan said suddenly, his voice rough. She'd talk about her plans for each bed, and I'd nod like I knew the difference between annuals and perennials. It was our time, you know. Amara nodded, her memories of lost moments with Micah surfacing. It sounds like she filled this garden with love. She did, Nathan said, his trowel stilling. Then she got sick. Last year she was too weak to come out here. I was so focused on her treatment, I let the garden go. After she died, I couldn't touch it. It felt like betraying her. Amara paused, her heart aching for him. You didn't betray her, Nathan. You were trying to save her. He looked up, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I don't know if I did. We couldn't afford the experimental treatments. Insurance wouldn't cover them. So I mortgaged the house, took out loans, and maxed out credit cards. I was desperate to keep her with us. But they didn't work. And now... He swallowed hard. The debt's crushing us. I work 18-hour days to keep up. And Margaret knows. She's using it to threaten to take Lily and Ethan. Amara's breath caught, the pieces of Margaret's confidence falling into place. She thinks you can't provide for them? Nathan nodded, his jaw tight. Sarah will establish a trust for the kids' education and welfare. Margaret's the trustee. She could argue I'm failing to stabilize them, and she'd have a case. He set the trowel down, his hands trembling. I hired you because your references said you were intuitive and caring, like you understood kids in a way most don't. But there's this sadness when people talk about you, like there's more to your story. Amara's fingers stilled in the dirt, her throat tightening. I had a son, Micah, she said softly. He was stillborn, full term, 3 years ago. No reason, just gone. My fiancé couldn't handle it, saying I was stuck in the past. He left, and I had to find a way to keep going. Nannying gave me that, a way to love kids who need it, to feel like I'm still a mom in some way. Have you ever shared a truth that changed how someone saw you? Drop it in the comments. Your stories keep us connected. Nathan's hand found hers in the dirt, warm and steady. I'm sorry, Amara, he said, his voice carrying the weight of someone who knew loss too well. That's why you get them. Lily and Ethan. You see their pain because you've lived it. Yeah, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. That's why I pushed them to talk about Sarah. Not to hurt them, but to help them carry her love instead of her loss. Nathan looked at her, really looked, and something passed between them. Shared pain, unspoken hope. I've been so afraid, he admitted. Scared they'll forget her if I let them move forward, but also scared they'll hurt too much if I let them remember. They won't forget her, Amara said firmly. but they need to know it's okay to laugh, to love her without breaking. You can show them that. He nodded, his eyes glistening. I don't know how, but we can figure it out together. His hand lingered on hers, the moment fragile but real, until the sound of a car engine broke the spell. Amara glanced up, her heart sinking as she spotted Margaret's black sedan parked across the street, its tinted windows hiding watchful eyes. Amara felt a mix of resolve and unease as they returned to the Tulips. Nathan's confession had deepened their bond, but Margaret's presence reminded them of the battle ahead. The garden, blooming with hope, was a small victory, but the fight for this family's future was beginning. If Nathan and Amara's shared vulnerability moves you, hit that subscribe button to follow their fight for hope. The shrill ring of Amara Johnson's phone pierced the darkness of her room in the Caldwell mansion, yanking her from sleep. The clock read 2:17 a.m., July 20th, 2025, the early hours of a humid Charleston Sunday. Her heart raced, the panic that only a middle-of-the-night call could summon. She fumbled for the phone, Nathan Caldwell's name glowing on the screen. Amara's voice was tight, barely controlled. I'm at Charleston General. Ethan's in the ER. Appendicitis. They're taking him into surgery. Have you ever faced a moment when fear gripped you in the dead of night? Share your story in the comments. We're here to connect through these raw moments. Amara was out of bed before he finished, throwing on jeans and a sweater, her mind flashing to hospital corridors and the sterile silence of her loss 3 years ago. Is he okay? Is Lily with you? She asked, already grabbing her keys. He's stable, but it's serious, Nathan said, his voice breaking. Lily's here, scared. I need you. The desperation in his words cut through her, and she promised to be there. Racing through Charleston's empty streets, the city's oak-lined avenues a blur under streetlights. At Charleston General's pediatric waiting area, Amara found Nathan pacing like a caged animal, his dark blonde hair disheveled, his blue eyes wild with fear. Lily sat curled in an oversized chair, clutching a worn stuffed elephant, her dark hair falling over her tear-streaked face. She looked impossibly small under the harsh fluorescent lights. Amara! Lily cried, launching into Amara's arms, her body shaking with sobs. Ethan was screaming, and there was blood, and the ambulance came. Shh, he's going to be okay, Amara murmured, stroking Lily's hair, her heart pounding as she met Nathan's gaze over the girl's head. His shirt was wrinkled, pulled on hastily, and his hands trembled as he stopped pacing. If Amara's strength in this crisis moves you, hit that like button to keep this story alive. Tell me what happened, Amara said, guiding Lily back to the chair, settling beside her, and keeping an arm around her. Lily's voice was small, trembling. He woke up crying. His tummy hurt so bad. When Daddy touched it, Ethan screamed, like really screamed. I thought... She choked, unable to finish. He's not going to die, Amara said firmly, squeezing Lily's shoulder. The doctors are fixing him, taking out a tiny part that's making him sick so he can feel better. She looked at Nathan, who'd sunk into a chair across from them, his face buried in his hands. Sarah always handled the medical stuff, Nathan said quietly, his voice muffled. She knew what to ask, what to watch for. When Ethan started screaming, I froze. All I could think was, I'm losing him too. Amara reached across, touching his arm. You didn't freeze, Nathan. You got him here fast. That's what mattered. She turned to Lily, softening her tone. Want to tell me about that elephant? Looks like he's been on some adventures. Lily sniffed, clutching the toy. Mama gave it to me when Ethan was born. I used to tell him stories about it to make him stop crying. She paused, her hazel eyes distant. I told Ethan a story tonight. But it didn't help. It helped more than you know, Amara said, her voice warm. You were there for him, just like your mama would have been. Have you ever found comfort in a small act during a crisis? Drop it in the comments. Your stories keep us together. They settled into the rhythm of hospital waiting, Lily dozing fitfully against Amara's shoulder, Nathan alternating between pacing and staring at the ER doors. Amara watched other families in the waiting room, each carrying burdens of worry and hope. At 4:30 a.m., Dr. Patel emerged, her scrubs wrinkled, but her face calm. Mr. Caldwell, Ethan did beautifully. The appendix was inflamed, but we caught it before it ruptured. He'll stay overnight, but he should go home tomorrow afternoon. Relief washed over Nathan's face, his shoulders sagging like a weight had lifted. Lily stirred, blinking sleepily. Is Ethan okay? She whispered. He's perfect, Dr. Patel said with a smile. He's sleeping, but you can see him soon. They followed her to Ethan's room, where he lay small in the hospital bed, dwarfed by monitors, his blonde curls stark against the white pillow. His breathing was steady, his cheeks regaining color. Lily approached cautiously, as if he might break. She said softly, clutching her elephant, that he looked like he was dreaming good dreams. I hope so, Nathan murmured, brushing Ethan's hair back, his hand lingering. Amara stood back, giving them space, her heart whole at the sight of their quiet strength. If this family's resilience in crisis inspires you, hit that subscribe button to follow their journey. As they prepared to take Ethan home that evening, Nathan's hands shook as he signed discharge papers. Thank you, he said to Amara, his voice low as they waited for the wheelchair. For being here, for keeping Lily calm. I don't know what I'd have done. You'd have figured it out, Amara said, her tone firm. You're a good father, Nathan. Stop doubting that. But his eyes held a flicker of fear, a shadow of Margaret's threats, and the weight of past losses. In the car, Ethan slept, his head lolling against the window, while Lily held his hand from her booster seat. Amara, Lily said softly in the darkened car. When Mama was in the hospital, was it like this? Scary? Like you couldn't breathe? Amara met Nathan's eyes in the rearview mirror, seeing her pain reflected. Yeah, she said quietly. It felt just like this. The crisis had stripped away pretense, binding them closer. However, Margaret's looming presence reminded Amara that their unity was fragile. A family still learning to stand together against the storms ahead. The early evening light of late July bathed the Caldwell mansion in a golden glow, its warmth seeping through the open windows as Amara Johnson tucked Ethan into bed. His blonde curls fanned across the pillow, his small hand clutching the stuffed elephant, now a talisman after his recent hospital scare. In her yellow room down the hall, Lily was already asleep, her latest book splayed open beside her. The crisis of Ethan's appendicitis had woven the family closer, but Margaret Langley's threats lingered like a shadow, her black sedan spotted too often near the house. As Amara descended the stairs, she felt the weight of that shadow, wondering if her presence was a balm or a burden. Have you ever felt love and fear collide in a single moment? Share your story in the comments. We're here for the heart of it. Nathan stood in the hallway, his dark blonde hair catching the fading light, his blue eyes carrying a nervous energy she hadn't seen before. Amara, can I show you something? He asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. He gestured toward a door at the end of the hall, one she'd assumed led to a closet. Instead, it opened to a narrow staircase, its wooden steps creaking underfoot. Sarah's studio, Nathan said, leading her up. The room at the top was a burst of sunlight, even in the evening, with large windows flooding the space with golden hues. Canvases lined the walls, vibrant colors. Landscapes of Charleston's gardens, portraits of Lily and Ethan, abstract swirls of emotion. Paintbrushes lay scattered on a table, their bristles stiff with dried paint, as if waiting for Sarah to return. Nathan said she was working on a children's book, his voice soft with memory, about a girl who painted doors to anywhere she wanted to go. It was for Lily and Ethan, something they could keep forever. He picked up a sketchbook, its pages filled with delicate drawings of a girl with Lily's dark hair, stepping through painted portals to forests and stars. If Sarah's art touches your heart, hit that like button to honor her legacy. Amara moved through the studio, her fingers grazing a canvas of Ethan as a toddler, his chubby hands smeared with finger paint, his grin pure joy. "These are incredible," she breathed. Sarah had a gift. She painted every day, even when she was sick, Nathan said, his gaze distant. The doctor said it helped with the stress of treatment. I'd sit here, watching her, and we could pretend everything was normal for those hours. His voice cracked, and his hands trembling. He set the sketchbook down. Amara understood why he'd avoided this room. It was Sarah's essence, her dreams and love distilled into color and light. "The kids should see this," she said gently, not to make them sad, but to show them how Sarah saw them, full of joy, not just loss. Nathan looked at her, his eyes searching. What if it hurts them more? What if they feel they must keep it exactly as she left it? "Then we help them see it as a gift," Amara said, "a way to carry her love forward." She paused, sensing his hesitation. "You've been carrying so much alone, Nathan. You don't have to." He took a deep breath, then reached under a stack of paintings, pulling out a folder. "There's something else," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Margaret was right about one thing. He handed her the folder, filled with medical bills, loan documents, and mortgage papers. Sarah's treatments weren't covered. "I mortgaged the house, took loans, and drained everything to give her a chance. It didn't work, and now the debt's drowning us. Margaret could use it to take the kids, claiming I can't provide stability." Amara's heart sank, the weight of his confession heavy in the air. "Why tell me this now?" she asked, setting the folder down. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his eyes meeting hers with raw vulnerability. "It terrifies me because I'm falling in love with you, Amara. You didn't sign up for this. A widower with debt, guilt, and a mother-in-law ready to tear us apart. I have no right to ask you to stay in this mess. If Nathan's courage to confess his love moves you, hit that subscribe button to follow their journey." Amara's breath caught, her heart pounding. She stepped closer, the scent of paint and possibility filling the space between them. "Stop telling me what I signed up for," she said, her voice firm. "I know what it's like to lose everything, Nathan. My son, my fiancé, they're gone. But I'm still here, choosing to love again. I'm falling for you too, and for Lily and Ethan. I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for real. And this," she gestured to the studio, "Sarah's art surrounding them, is real." Nathan stared at her, his eyes glistening, then pulled her close, his kiss soft but desperate, full of unspoken promises. Amara rested her forehead against his when they parted, her voice steady. "So what do we do now?" "I don't know," he admitted, his hand still on hers. "I've been surviving, not building. Let's start together." Outside, the Charleston evening settled around them, the studio glowing with Sarah's legacy and their fragile hope. But neither noticed the black sedan parked across the street, its occupant noting the upstairs light's duration, a silent threat to their newfound bond. Have you ever leaped into love despite the risks? Share your story in the comments. Your courage fuels ours. The late morning sun filtered through the Caldwell mansion's kitchen windows, casting dappled light on the marble island where Amara Johnson poured coffee. It was Monday, late July, and the house was quiet. The children at school and Nathan at his architectural firm. The warmth of last night's confession in Sarah's studio, Nathan's declaration of love, her own heart's response, still lingered, but so did the shadow of Margaret Langley's black sedan, spotted too often near the property. Amara's fingers tightened around her mug, her thoughts churning with the weight of Nathan's financial burdens and Margaret's threats. Have you ever felt a moment of hope overshadowed by fear? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're here for the twists and turns. A sharp knock at the door startled her, the sound cutting through the morning stillness. A courier stood on the porch, his expression apologetic as he handed her a thick envelope addressed to Nathan. Her heart sank as she signed for it, the official seal of a law firm glaring from the label. She waited until Nathan returned that evening, his dark blonde hair mussed from a long day, his blue eyes narrowing as he opened the envelope in his office. He read the petition for emergency custody modification aloud, but his voice was hollow. Margaret's claiming I'm an unfit guardian due to financial instability and inappropriate living arrangements. Amara's stomach dropped as she peered over his shoulder. The documents spread across his desk like evidence of a crime. Financial statements detailing the crushing debt from Sarah's treatments, a grainy photo of her and Nathan in the studio, their closeness misconstrued as intimate, and a falsified background check claiming Amara was fired from a previous job for boundary violations. "This is a lie," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Margaret did this." Nathan said it doesn't matter if it's a lie, his hands trembling as he set the papers down. "It's out there, and in a custody hearing, doubt is enough to sway a judge. If this twist in the Caldwell story grips you, hit that like button to keep their fight alive." Upstairs, Lily's sharp ears caught their voices. She crept to Ethan's room, her dark hair falling over her face as she whispered, "They're talking about grandmother Margaret taking us away." Ethan, clutching his T-Rex, frowned. "I don't want to go. I like Amara and Daddy." Lily's hazel eyes gleamed with determination. "Then we do something. Mama's studio has her letters. Remember the ones we wrote? They show we're happy here." The children, driven by fierce loyalty, snuck to the attic, gathering the paper airplanes they'd made with Amara. Their words to Sarah were proof of their healing. Back in the office, Amara paced, her mind racing. "I should leave," she said, her voice breaking before the hearing. "If I'm gone, Margaret can't use me against you." Nathan's head snapped up, his jaw tight. "No, not." He crossed the room, grabbing her hands, his grip firm. "You're part of this family, Amara. The kids love you. I love you. Leaving means they lose someone else. I won't let that happen." Amara's throat tightened, Margaret's accusations echoing. Opportunistic, playing house. "What if she's right?" she said, her voice barely audible. "What if I'm making this more challenging for you? For them?" Nathan's eyes softened, but his voice was fierce. "You're not the problem. You've given them back their laughter, their memories of Sarah. Margaret's the one tearing us apart, not you. Have you ever decided between staying and running to protect those you love? Share your story in the comments. Your courage fuels ours." The door creaked, and Lily appeared, Ethan trailing behind, their arms full of paper airplanes. "We heard," Lily said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "We don't want to go with Grandmother Margaret. We got these from Mama's studio." She held out the letters, their childish handwriting spilling with love for Sarah. Pancakes, gardens, stars. "They show we're okay with you and Amara." Ethan nodded, his blonde curls bouncing. "I told Mama I want to stay here with you, Amara and Rexy." He held up his T-Rex as if it sealed his case. Amara knelt, her heart swelling at their bravery. "You two are incredible," she said, taking the letters. "These mean so much. But this is grown-up stuff, okay? We'll handle it." Nathan crouched beside her, his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You're not going anywhere," he said, his voice firm. "We're a family, and we fight together." But his eyes held a flicker of fear, knowing the hearing was in 2 weeks, and Margaret was playing for keeps. As the children headed to bed, Amara clutched the paper airplanes, their words a testament to the home they'd built. But the falsified documents on Nathan's desk loomed, a weapon Margaret wielded with precision. Amara felt the weight of her choice, to stay and risk everything, or leave to protect the family she'd come to love. Outside, storm clouds gathered over Charleston, the rumble of thunder echoing the battle ahead. If the children's courage and Amara's resolve inspire you, hit that subscribe button to follow their family fight. The Charleston courtroom was smaller than Amara Johnson had imagined, its wood-paneled walls and fluorescent lights giving it the sterile feel of a corporate meeting room rather than a battleground for a family's future. It was late July, the air heavy with the weight of the custody hearing looming over the Caldwell household. Amara sat in the back row, her hands clasped tightly, as Nathan's attorney had advised her to remain inconspicuous. Across the room, Margaret Langley commanded the front, her silver hair immaculate, her black dress a calculated symbol of mourning. Her legal team, sharp and tailored suits, exuded precision, while her pale blue eyes gleamed with righteous certainty. Amara felt the sting of Margaret's accusations, opportunistic, unfit, echoing in her mind. Have you ever faced a moment where your place in someone's life was questioned? Share your story in the comments. We're here for the raw truth. Judge Miranda Chen presided with a weary professionalism, her dark eyes scanning the room as Margaret's attorney began. "Your Honor," he said, his voice smooth, "Mr. Caldwell's financial instability and poor judgment endanger his children's welfare. He's allowed an unqualified individual with questionable references to act as their primary caregiver, prioritizing his romantic interests over their stability." He presented the falsified background check, claiming Amara's termination for boundary violations, and photos of her and Nathan in Sarah's studio, their closeness twisted into something inappropriate. Each word landed like a blow, and Amara's stomach churned, the lies cutting deeper because they held grains of truth. Nathan's debt was real, her role unconventional. She glanced at Nathan, seated at the defendant's table, his dark blonde hair neat, but his hands trembling slightly. When it was his turn, he stood, his voice steady despite the tension in his jaw. "Your Honor, I'm not a perfect father," he began. "Losing Sarah broke something in me, but my children are healing because of Amara. She's taught them to remember their mother with joy, not just pain. They laugh again and talk about Sarah without fear. That's not neglect, it's love. If Nathan's defense of his family moves you, hit that like button to keep their story strong." Margaret's attorney objected, calling the testimony emotional, but Judge Chen allowed it. Nathan continued, his eyes finding Amara's across the courtroom. "The debt is real. I mortgaged everything to save Sarah's life. Some call it poor planning. I call it fighting for the woman I loved. I'm rebuilding, not just financially but for my kids' hearts." His voice cracked, but he held firm, a father fighting for his family. Then, the courtroom doors swung open, and Lily appeared, her dark hair pulled back, her school uniform crisp despite the backpack slung over her shoulder. Ethan trailed behind, his blonde curls bouncing, clutching his T-Rex. Gasps rippled through the room. They were supposed to be at school, safe from this adult storm. Madison, Lily, Judge Chen said gently. You shouldn't be here, sweetheart. Yes, I should, Lily declared, marching forward, her hazel eyes fierce like Sarah's in the studio paintings. Everyone's talking about what's best for us, but no one's asking what we want. She held up a bundle of paper airplanes, the letters they'd written to Sarah, gathered from the attic. Margaret half rose, her composure cracking. Lily, darling, this isn't appropriate. What's not appropriate, Lily said, turning to her grandmother, is trying to take us from Daddy and Amara because you're sad about Mama. Her voice was steady, a small warrior's. We're not rich anymore, but we have enough. Amara isn't replacing Mama. She's helping us be happy again. Ethan ran to Nathan, launching into his arms. We don't want to live with Grandmother Margaret, he said, his voice clear despite his small frame. We want Daddy and Amara. If the children's courage grips your heart, hit that subscribe button to follow their fight. Judge Chen's gaze softened, taking in the children's resolve. Lily, how did you get here? She asked. We walked from school during lunch, Lily said. Mrs. Carter's probably mad, but we had to tell the truth. She handed the judge the paper airplanes, their words spilling love for Sarah. Pancakes, gardens, stars. These show we're okay with Daddy and Amara. Margaret's voice broke as she spoke. They don't understand, Your Honor. People leave, promises break. Love isn't always enough. Her eyes glistened, revealing her fear of losing Sarah's memory entirely. Amara stood, her heart pounding, and walked forward. You're right, Margaret, she said, her voice steady. Her voice, love isn't always enough, but it's where we start. She knelt before Lily and Ethan, meeting their eyes. I can't promise I'll never leave or that bad things won't happen, but I promise to choose to stay every day, to love you no matter what. Are you staying? Ethan asked, his small hand finding hers. Amara looked at Nathan, his eyes holding hope and fear, and nodded. I'm staying. The courtroom fell silent, the weight of her promise settling over them. Judge Chen cleared her throat. Mrs. Langley, I understand your concerns, but these children's clarity about their home speaks volumes. Disrupting their stability doesn't serve their best interests. Margaret's shoulders slumped, her certainty crumbling as the judge ruled in Nathan's favor. Have you ever seen a child's voice change everything? Share your story in the comments. Your experiences fuel this journey. As they left the courtroom, Nathan held Ethan's hand in Amara's, the paper airplanes tucked safely in her bag. Margaret lingered, her eyes on her grandchildren, a flicker of acceptance in her gaze. The battle was won, but the war for their future was far from over. The early January sun shone gently over the Caldwell mansion's backyard, its rays warming the garden where Amara Johnson knelt, her hands deep in the cool soil. 6 months had passed since the courtroom victory, and the Charleston winter was mild, perfect for tending Sarah's tulip beds, now vibrant with new blooms. Once choked with weeds, the garden flourished with marigolds and seedlings, which had started from Sarah's old packets, found in her studio. Lily and Ethan worked beside Amara, their laughter mingling with the chirp of sparrows, starkly contrasting with the heavy silence that once cloaked this home. The family had found a new rhythm of healing and hope, but the journey here had been a tapestry of courage and love. Have you ever watched the family grow stronger through shared moments? Share your story in the comments. We're here for the heart of it. Lily, her dark hair tied back with a ribbon, carefully transplanted a marigold, her hazel eyes focused. Do you think Mama would like these? She asked, brushing dirt from her hands. She loved tulips, but these are so bright. Amara smiled, wiping a smudge from Lily's cheek. I think she'd love seeing you happy, Lily. Gardens are for growing new things while honoring what came before. She handed Ethan a small trowel, his blonde curls bouncing as he enthusiastically dug a hole. Ethan declared that I'm planting this marigold for Mama, his blue eyes gleaming, so she can see it from heaven. His small hands patted the soil, his school clothes already dusted with earth. But Amara didn't mind. The mess was a sign of life returning. Across the garden, Nathan was building raised beds for vegetables, his dark blonde hair catching the sunlight as he hammered wood into place. He'd secured a lucrative contract with a local firm, easing the crushing debt from Sarah's treatments. He had negotiated with Margaret to access Sarah's trust for the children's future needs, school, activities, and stability. The financial burden, once a weapon in Margaret's custody fight, was no longer a noose around his neck. He glanced at Amara, his smile soft, a silent acknowledgement of the life they were building together. If this family's blooming hope warms your heart, hit that like button to keep their story shining. Margaret visited every other weekend now, her silver hair and sharp demeanor softened by time and the children's joy. She'd come grudgingly at first, her pale blue eyes wary, but seeing Lily and Ethan thrive had chipped away at her grief-fueled resolve. Today she sat on a garden bench, watching Ethan dig, a faint smile breaking her usual reserve. "Sarah would have loved this," she said quietly, almost to herself, her fingers tracing the edge of a tulip petal. Amara nodded, sensing the shift in Margaret's heart. "She's still here, in them," she said, gesturing to the children, "in this garden." Margaret met her gaze, a flicker of acceptance passing between them, a fragile truce forged for Lily and Ethan's sake. "Daddy, look!" Ethan called, holding up a marigold, its orange petals vibrant against the black soil. "It's Mama's favorite color." Nathan crossed the garden, crouching beside his son, his hand ruffling Ethan's curls. "She'd say you're a natural, buddy," Nathan said, his voice steady, no longer breaking at Sarah's memory. He'd started joining them for dinner most nights, helping with homework, sharing stories of Sarah, her silly songs, her love for starry nights. The children now spoke of her freely, their laughter mingling with memories, a balance Amara had helped them find. Lily stood, dusting her hands, and looked at Amara. "You're not going anywhere, right?" she asked, her voice carrying a trace of the lingering fear since Margaret's threats. "You promised in court you'd stay." Amara knelt, meeting Lily's eyes. "I'm here, sweetheart. Every day, I choose to be here." She hugged Lily, Ethan joining in, his arms tight around them both. Nathan watched, his eyes glistening, the weight of their shared journey etched in his smile. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of hope, the family worked together, planting seeds for a future rooted in love. The garden was more than flowers. It was a testament to their resilience, a place where Sarah's legacy bloomed alongside new beginnings. Amara felt a quiet certainty. This was her family, chosen through pain and promise, stronger for it. But one question lingered. Would you risk everything for a second chance at love, knowing it could break your heart again? Share your answer in the comments. Your thoughts make this story live. The Charleston evening settled around them, the garden glowing with life, symbolizing what they'd built from broken ground. Amara, Nathan, Lily, and Ethan stood together, hands dirty, hearts full, ready for whatever came next. If their journey of healing and love inspires you, hit that subscribe button to stay with us for more stories of hope.